This week on Pay Dirt, I'm going to take you for a walk and show you one of the food plots on my farm and talk about why spots like that are so valuable. Before I get into today's episode, I want to wish you a Happy New Year. As you look around here, you can see this looks pretty drab and dreary, the spot where I'm standing. It's because I'm filming this right at the very end of December. If you were here in July, this would look a whole lot different. But this is a little small food plot that we created on this little secondary ridge. And I'm going to talk about in today's episode how creating these locations can make your property better for hunting and also to create more value if you ever turn around and want to sell the land. So when we come back to the next segment, I'm going to dive into that part of the conversation. Spots like this are so valuable to me as a hunter and a landowner because it gives me a location where I can concentrate the deer movement. See, I'm primarily a bow hunter, and this is about a quarter to a half an acre little small opening that I created here. The deer will come into these spots almost like staging areas before they move out of the timber and move into the bigger fields to feed. They'll pop in these spots, they'll feed, they'll come past within bow range. You can create a lot of close range opportunities. You may not see a ton of deer, but what you do have are a really manageable setup for hunting. So I've got a whole bunch of these on the farm. I've probably got 5 or 6 of them scattered around, maybe even more than that now. And those are my most favorite spots to hunt. And not only does this create value for me as the current landowner, but when, if the day comes when I sell this, it's also going to make the property itself more valuable, because these types of locations, when a deer hunter walks out into here, like I'm standing here right now, and I can just feel it. There just has a different feel to it than if you're standing in the open timber or in a big field. It's almost like the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you can just see the deer, moving through here. When you go to sell the property, you're not really selling the steak as much as you're selling the sizzle. And this is definitely the sizzle. When you stand here and you get that same sense of wow, man, what a cool spot. I wish I was in that tree right now, or I wish I had a blind right behind here, or whatever. That potential buyer is going to have that same sensation. So that's one of the values, and my number one value, of course, is selfish. I want to be able to have these spots to hunt. But as a secondary value, I realize that I'm doing a lot to increase the value of my property should I ever turn around to sell it. So in this next segment, when I come back again, I'm going to talk about how we created this one, and then a few more tips on how you can make spots like this on a reduced budget. So now I want to talk a little bit more about specifically how we created this one. And as I mentioned earlier, this was a little secondary ridge that was a cedar thicket and had some scattered trees in it. Didn't serve any real purpose on the farm. Maybe it was a bedding area. But we came in here with a skid loader and I believe 2 or 3 attachments. The primary one was the mower deck, the bush hog deck. Another one that we probably would have had really good use for would have been like a clipper, where you could hook onto a tree and then lift it out and tear it out of the ground. But we made it pretty short work of this. Danny Little helped me out and he had the equipment. So in about a 2-hour period, he was able to completely clear this off and then remove most of the obvious roots so that I could come in and seed this. In fact, I tilled it about a week later and planted it to clover. One of the challenges that you've got in spots like this, and probably need to touch on that also because it's going to be important to you as you create these. If you look around here, there's lots of big trees and they've all got roots that go underneath the soil. Some of those roots are coming back underneath this little small plot. So if you have a dry summer, it's really tough to get these little small plots like this back in the timber to grow because they drought out really quick. No matter what you put in there, these trees are sucking as much moisture as they can possibly get, and everything on the surface basically dies. So some years it's not going to work out very well, and in those years, typically you're going to want to come back in July and plant a fall food plot like a brassica blend, which is your turnips and radishes and stuff like that. But the point is that within a really short amount of time and without a lot of equipment, we were able to dig this thing right out of the timber. And you can even rent the skid loader and the attachments. I know that Cat Rental will do it, and there's other stores that will do it. Other rental places. So with just a few $100s, maybe $1,000 max, you can have one of these things. And it's definitely worth it. Like I said, it creates a lot of value for you as a landowner if you're a hunter, and then also when you turn around and go to sell it at some point down the road. So I've talked about how you can make a spot like this using equipment. It's not super expensive, but there's other ways to do this too. In fact, you can create a spot like this with a very, very limited budget. We call those poor man plots. And I'm going to come back again next Monday in the Dig Deeper and talk about how to create poor man plots.